I think we might have just stumbled upon one of the most pleasurably painful games we have played in a long time.
Didn't know he was a masochist.
Sometimes. For Martin Wallace, I am. I am, of course, talking about Aeterna. Aeterna is a strategic worker placement and area majority game set in ancient Rome, designed by Martin Wallace and published by Ares Games, where 2 to 4 players assume the role of influential Roman families striving to increase their prestige by engaging in military conquest, city building, and endless amounts of unrest management. So let's start with the things we really like about this game. And I think first and foremost, it has to be the tightness of the economy. Everything feels like, not compact, but everything feels very like well structured. You put out your little Roman men to influence these individual hills. And you can also play your cards. But on a turn, you only have 4 cards. And you may only have maybe 3 or 4 men for the entire round. And so everything feels like there's so much you want to do, but you know that you can't do it all. And that's sort of what I mentioned at the start, when like this like painful pleasure. Like it's just, you know what I mean though? You know what I mean?
I don't know if anybody knows what you mean, but
no,
okay.
Where you just kind of feel like, I don't know. It's just sometimes it's fun to be constrained. It's all well and good. Okay. It's all well.
That's what she said about handcuffs.
Oh, okay, but it's not that kind of channel. Let's just put your little ones to bed. Apparently, this is Tabletop Turtle After Dark. No, what I'm saying is like, okay, sometimes you play games and you just get, it's just a cacophony of like resources just falling down on you. You know what I mean? Like you do any action and it's just get this.
I think like that option fatigue, too many things.
Yeah, that too. Whereas this game, and in a lot of Martin Wallace games, I'm just gonna keep saying the word. It's really tight. Like it feels like tight. It feels like you just feel more challenged, and the game sort of facilitates this feeling of cleverness when you're able to pull off certain things. You know, like where in other games you're just like, I did this thing and I got a bunch of shit. In this game, you do something highly specific that you spend time agonizing over, and then you are rewarded. And the reward isn't huge, but it's enough to keep you engaged.
Yeah, I think I have to agree, and I hate that stereotypical comparison, but it's like maths, where there's a lot of rules and restrictions. But because it's such a tight restriction, if you can excel under that pressure, it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
That satiation when like you solve like a complex puzzle or problem. I think this game really gives that feeling because it's very resource limited. And what you said about 3 to 4 men around, you actually start with 2. In the beginning, there are some cards, I should start the game, there's some cards that you have to basically, I don't know what it's called, but you X your men in order to get those resources.
She's talking about the cards which enable you to essentially go conquering across the provinces. And to do that, you have to essentially, those guys leave your base, so to speak.
Yeah, so you need some sacrifices in order to get those rewards. And so you end up with less men, and that
means less men that you can use on the board.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of why I love it is as well, they did a really good job with the resources, so including your men as a type of resource. It's so tight, but you can use the resources in different ways. So your men can be used as payment to conquer, or it can be used to go influence a hill as well. So that tight resource management, I think part of why it's done so well is because the resources are multi-use and you can play it in different ways. So the strategy is a bit more flexible.
Yeah, and I think that brings us to another thing that I really like about this game is that the way the mechanics work in this game, everything feels very fluid. Do you know how you play some games?
You said it was tight.
It's tight and fluid. I don't have a hand gesture for fluid. This would be my hand gesture for tight. I don't have a fluid.
This video is going in one direction.
Fluid. I don't know. But no, it just, sometimes you're playing games and it feels disjointed. There's this weird thing in contemporary game design to not only like just not bash you, but like bombard you with all this like extra resources that here you get all these resources. But there's also like, there's this weird thing in design now where it seems to be that designers will just be like, I like worker placement, let's throw that shit in the game. I like deck building, let's throw that shit in the game. But nothing feels connected. In this game, it is all connected. It's like she was saying, when you put those 2 guys to sacrifice, so to speak, to go conquering, those are 2 guys you can't use on the board, but you can do stuff on the board to facilitate that. And you can build buildings that facilitate, your actions on the board.
And you build buildings and they give you guys.
Yeah.
So it's really
It's a symphony.
been a while since we've seen a game this concise and that also allows with this much strategy and complexity. There's something about the simplicity in this game that is so well executed that makes it feel like you have so many choices, and strategically it's so fluid.
Tight. Tight. Yeah, but it's really easy.
This is the wrong kind of video.
No, it's good. It's perfect. But it's easy to explain. Like you can knock an explanation of this in like under 10 minutes with no problem at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of the rules are pretty intuitive. Like they all just kind of make sense as you're going. So even if you kind of were half listening to the person teaching you, she doesn't listen at all. As you start playing, you just get it. You just get it. And that's nice. It sort of reminds me of a Bruno Cathala game in that respect, where you have a game that's relatively simple, but within that simplicity is a ton of depth. And, the more you put into the game, the more you're going to get out.
That's the hallmark of a great game, in my opinion, where it's super simple and super intuitive to understand. And so if you don't play your game for a while, you come back to it after,
true.
days, weeks, months, maybe even years. And you remember all the different parts. Like, oh, right, you do this. Like, it was so much, it just makes sense and so intuitive. That, to me, is hallmark of a great game.
It just feels like all the mechanics work perfectly together, right? Because in this game, you are getting, you're getting worker placement, you're getting a bit of tableau building, right? Because you're playing with those cards, and you're also getting area majority. I'm not usually a big fan of area majority, but because it's not the primary focus of the game, it feels more like an accompaniment. It just feels better. I like the area majority in this game because it's something you can sort of grok out. You can sort of like strategize. It's not something that just kind of hits you where a person just, oh, okay, Dune. When you're playing, Dune's a great game. But when you're playing Dune and, you're in the lead for the majority in that spot, like, I'm going to win. And then a person just plays like 2 intrigue cards that gives them like freaking 10 swords. And just like,
or the dreadnoughts that are
or the dreadnoughts.
People kind of thing.
That doesn't exist in this game. This is more about reading your opponent, trying to guess what they're going to do, and knowing, okay, I think I can edge out everybody else in this area as being the majority leader. And I do want to stress the idea, you kind of scoff at it, but the pleasure in the pain. Like, great example. In this game, we can tackle it now. There is something called, I think it's called the revolt marker, okay? And this is just like when your people they're angry with you. If you go out on expeditions, they get pissed because they're like, why aren't you helping us back at home? There's various things that piss them off, and it starts to raise up. At the end of the round, if you haven't brought that back down, you start paying penalties, and the penalties are bad. Like, they're harsh. Hell, I don't know if I've ever seen this in a game before. If you bring this revolt marker too high, you lose. You lose. It's not like you lose X amount of points. No, you literally lost the game. You've reached the top part of the spot. You have lost. But I think
we call it revolution.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess your people they have a revolution. You're gone. But I kind of think that's cool because here's the thing, and here's what makes the pain a bit more pleasurable. It is you have agency. This is under your control, and that is the fine line that crosses between a good game that employs that kind of mechanism and a bad game that employs that kind of mechanism. I want to feel like if something goes wrong, that's my bad. I made that mistake. It wasn't a card that was flipped. Accountability. It wasn't a dice that was rolled. I pushed too hard. Yeah. Now I'm screwed. Once you've played the game enough, like I think after the 4th or 5th, well, I guess if you're really good, you could get it before the 4th or 5th play. But at some point, you're confident enough in what you need to do and how the mechanisms work that you could start analyzing what other people are doing. And I know Kim's going to go here. It just makes perfect sense that she's going to go to this hill. It makes perfect sense that she's low on money now, so I bet she's going to go on an expedition to earn money. And once you're able to start reading other people and what they're going to do, now okay, I want this action. I want to do this. I want to put this person to the hill, but I know I can delay that because she's not going to go there this turn. And once you start doing that, and once you start gauging those intricacies, and that's when it becomes that's where you start to feel you have far more agency, and the pain is mitigated. And everything just becomes more pleasurable and more tight.
And I think continuing on the tight path, it's that all the cards are different in their abilities on them. And we haven't seen card abilities be, in some games, some cards are fantastic, some are crap. This game, every ability seems like good, but not that great. Like they're helpful.
They're all situational.
Yeah, they're all like useful, but you can't. There's no one card that's like this will be the trump card. This is when you have this card, you're definitely gonna win this game. There aren't any like that. There are some combinations that I think are very ideal together. Yes. But also it's luck of the draw whether or not those cards come up in this game at all. But yeah, I feel like there are a lot of cards that make you feel like, oh, I got great resources from this one card. It was great, but no one really stand out.
Yeah. And you know what's cool about the cards too is that like they're not. You know, sometimes you play a game that it has a bunch of different cards, but the cards all start feeling very similar. You know, you play a card down, it's like, this card gives me an extra food. This card gives me a stone. And it's just like, it gets a little boring. These cards have like, they're all pretty unique and they all have like pretty cool powers, like cool abilities.
Yeah, and there are a few cards I felt that, or just the way we played, there are a few cards that in the third round that came up as we're drafting, I just knew there's no way Mike would take this just because of the situation he's in. And so I didn't have to worry about drafting it early because I knew it would benefit me, but there's no way he would take this. I'll just take it later, you know, and you got to find ways to kind of differentiate your strategy. But this, I think what I'm trying to say is the game really supports that. It doesn't, some games, they're limited strategies. So you find that you and your opponent are kind of vying for the same thing and same strategy all the time. This game, even if you're playing 2 players versus 4 players, it still has enough variability that everyone can go for different things.
And like you were talking about, it's pretty good interaction in this game. This isn't a multiplayer solitaire game. Yeah, you're not directly impacting, you're not invading other people's lands or anything like that. But as I said, once you get better at the game, you're able to read people, you're able to see what they're doing. You know, the buildings, some people can be able to go out and you can build a building for 1 stone. You can see that they're trying to do that in an area that they're currently influencing. And then so you can sort of like, okay, well, I'm going to just out-influence that person and take that building from them. And there's a lot of that sort of like underhanded tactics that you can use. And I think the best one, and the one that I like the most, is, as we were saying at the start, at the end of the round, every area, you'll look at all the areas, and whatever area has the most amount of people in that area gets corruption. When you get it corrupted, you have to move your bad thing up top.
Only for the person that is has the most people.
Yes, that's important to know. And so what you can do is you can sort of mitigate that and be like, you know, if I just add an extra guy to this area that she's already controlling, she'll get corrupted and she'll get corruption markers.
Yeah, so it's a very screw you mechanic. I don't like that.
It's all the interaction in this game, it's there, but it is subtle and it's appreciated.
I think and so if you've been watching a channel for some time, you know that Mike loves the screw you mechanic. He loves anything mean, and I hate them. But I didn't actually mind it with this game. There were a few things in this game that I kind of did the screw you stuff. So, for example, stone is a very scarce resource.
You know why?
Why?
Because it has plausible deniability. Because when I go to a place to purposely screw her, right, and say like, haha, now I'm saying in my head, I'm like, oh, she's going to have to be corrupt in that spot. And she can turn and be like, that's mean, why are you doing that? I can be like, oh, well, but see, I just want to get that bonus there. It's 2 food and what is it? Oh, yeah, it's 2 food. I had to go there to get the 2 food. It has nothing to do with wanting to corrupt that lands. Because every time you go to a spot, you also get to trigger a little bonus that you, it's a first come, first serve bonus.
Somebody please help me get like a little clip of just that him admitting that he does.
I'll only do this once. I only admit this once.
And so I can use that for him every time we have a fight. And I'm like, why are you so mean to me? And he's like, I'm not. And I'm like, I have proof.
Plausible deniability. There's just lots of ways this game facilitates good interaction. Like, it's not in your face interaction, but it's more so than I am seeing in a lot of contemporary Euro game designs, which is nice. And I think the game does a great job of playing pretty well at all player counts, which I was surprised by. I think if I were to make suggestions, I would say it's good at 2, best at 3, and good at 4. 4 can be a little daunting. All the hills are opened up that you can influence, because usually the lower you go in player count, you have to knock some hills off that you can't go to. So there's definitely a lot more on the board. Good amount of interaction, but the game can drag a little bit. So I think 3 would be my preference that we played at.
I felt that 4 was both free and limiting, because 4 was too many people and too many spots to go.
Too many variables.
So you had to really diversify, but then you don't want to diversify because then you won't do very well. You want to like specialize it, but it's harder because there's so many spots open. So it's kind of hard to have monopoly in any one hill.
And it's hard to get a read on what everybody is doing. When you add more players, That's why I say the 2-player experience is actually pretty good, because I can like just look at Kim and just concentrate on what she's doing and then adjust accordingly.
Yeah, 4 adds a lot of like player complexity. 3 for me felt very tight. 3 felt the tightest. 2 players felt like you have the most freedom. That it was the best for me, the best balance of, okay, I can go to any of and build any of those 3 buildings, because it's only 1% I'm racing for. And none of it felt like a race to any particular spot. The cards it's either you or the other person who will get the card. Mm-hmm. So you only have to mentally manage what the other person is doing, not 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 other people.
So I think you'd be happy to play it at any player count.
Yeah,
pretty much, which is nice.
Yes, that's true. It's nice when games allow, like, it's not just only good at one certain player count, so you can play it forever.
It's nice that the box isn't a lie. Sometimes you open up a game and you start playing and you're like, yeah, it says 5 players, but not a chance. But we can't continually glaze this game. We're critics. We have to be critical. So I think one of the biggest criticisms I would have of the game is the card variety. Okay, like I said, we've played 10 or 12 times. And we've seen all the cards. And I feel like I might have built all the cards by now. So I think it is a game that's going to do very well with an expansion pack down the road.
Yes.
But I'm not saying that to suggest that the base game is necessarily lacking. Here's the issue. When we review a game, the time in which we're playing the game is very truncated. And you should keep this in mind with any reviewer. We were playing this game multiple times in a day for like a week. And so when you do that, yeah, everything's very fresh in your memory. Like, I remember when I played that card yesterday, I remember that. But traditionally, you're probably not playing that. You know, you're probably getting your friends over when the kids go to bed or something. You'll be able to play a couple games in a week. And I think if you were to do that, then it'd be fine.
Realistically speaking, what I don't like about this game, these tokens. This to me is what
bonus tokens.
Yeah.
So whenever you go to an area to influence an area, you're allowed to toggle the bonus tokens, and once they get used for that round, they can't be used again.
This is for me where there is an imbalance. It depends on, I guess, how you value all these things, but I feel that this is not great versus like this other one is 2 food.
There's ones that are objectionably better. Here,
yes.
This is the perfect example. This gives you 5 food. This gives you coins. This gives you 5 coins. This gives you 3 coins.
They're not balanced though.
They're not balanced. The reason these bonus tiles, are not balanced per se, is because you want to facilitate your players to get out there first and get the good stuff. But in doing so, you're not going to build that building you wanted to build first. You're not going to conquer that place that you wanted to conquer first. And that's the choice. Because if they're all the same, then there's no incentive to get out there as quickly as possible. And the other negative thing that needs to be tackled, and you're going to experience the second you play the game, unless you're a big brain genius or something, this is a game that is not beginner friendly. It's simple to understand. As we said, you know, you can explain this game to somebody. It's all intuitive. It all makes sense. But you are going to push your little revolt marker up, and you're going to reach this point where you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Well, I can't do anything now because I have to pay all these negative consequences. Because like one of the things we didn't tackle is you get a revolt marker if you can't pay at the end of the round the revolt token that you've surpassed. And you get these, and these are worth negative points at the end of the game. Like you move up in the tier, and you have to lose even more points. And so it can be this thing where it feels like this tight race, but because you've gained so many of these little tokens, and so you've moved so much in the revolt marker, that once you're in that tight race, it evaporates because you're losing a bunch of points at the end of the game. So that's a slightly negative thing. It's not a game that you can play at a board game cafe, I don't think, because you're not going to have fun, because you're not going to fully understand what it is you're trying to do.
I guess I'm just a big brain genius then.
She's just a big brain genius. She lost the first game she played. I won, but whatever. Oh, wait, no, I lost. No, I think I lost. I lost.
Yeah, the first game
I pushed my revolt really high.
Game ever I won. I was like, what are you saying?
I was like, I gotta pay all this shit. What does this game want me to do?
So basically, speaking of personalities, that's how this really reflects personalities. He's a big risk taker, so he took every risk possible. I tried to mitigate my risk at every single stage. Although I think the second time I played, I went so far I lost instantly because I was too high in the belt worker. Like I maxed out the track of revolutions apparently. goes to show you need to mitigate your risks.
And some games that I'd recommend that are mildly similar to this would be Mosaic. Mosaic you would get if you'd want something that's a bit less focused on worker placement, but it definitely has that tableau building where all these buildings do special things and you have to keep track of them all. But with Mosaic, there's much more focus on that because there's this cascading amount of buildings and cards that they just end up on your table. But it also has that area majority portion, which I appreciate because it's not the primary focus, but it's there. And the other game that I would recommend would be another one Martin Wallace game, which would be Anno 1800. I think the same thing with Anno that you get in this game is that you get that tightness. You get that feeling of like very subtle interaction between other players, but you also get this feeling where like you want to do lots of things, but you can't. And that's sort of indicative of a lot of Martin Wallace games. I think this is a game that I would absolutely recommend. It would come with those caveats of like, if you don't like games that are a little punishing, but even if you do, I think you have agency over that punishing mechanic. If you don't like games where you have to feed your people and you got to make sure that you keep your revolt down. If those things sound tedious and they sound like a chore, then you should avoid this game like a plague. You absolutely should.
If you don't like feeding your people, please don't start a business or run a country.
That is true. But if you like those things, like I do, in a set amount, I think a lot of games have this difficulty where they want to employ that sort of punishing, like Chinatown or like Agricola, where they're trying to employ this like very punishing mechanic. But sometimes it doesn't feel like they're offsetting that by making you feel good when you're taking actions and not making you feel like you're just running errands. And I think this game does a beautiful job of that. I think there's a lot of depth within its simplicity, which I really enjoy. Everything feels rewarding, and even, I feel rewarded every time I make any decision because I know each decision was a tough decision to make because everything was tight. Okay, yeah, I would give this. Oh, we don't give half ratings, do we?
I know.
We don't give half
But
ratings.
if both give half, we can.
No, we don't give half ratings. No half ratings.
Give it half, then I'll give it half too.
I'm in a good mood. I'm giving it an 8. I'm gonna go 8. I like this game. I think it's a really good game. I think Martin Wallace is a prolific designer who pushes out a game, maybe 2 games a year. And Martin, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but there's a good chunk of those that are stinkers in my opinion. But when he hits, he really hits. And I think this is one of his better games.
It was just, this game is just so well balanced. It does so many things so well that I couldn't help but love it. It was one of those games where not only when you're not playing it, do you want to play it? When you do play it, it does feel satisfying. It lives up to the hype in that way. And it's like I said, if you don't play for a while and you kind of forget, once you get back to it, once you see the cards, you're like, oh, right, it's so intuitive. And any game that feels intuitive to me, I always love. Because there isn't the explicit need to go back to the rule book and check, like, what does this do? What does this do? And then you feel like, oh, I forgot about this thing. And then as you're playing and something comes up, you're like, oh, these things have victory points. And then you've completely forgot about it all game. There was none of that. This felt so straightforward. Everything that you need for victory points is top of mind always. It's so simple but so complex. It was great. I was at an 8.5. So I'm going to round it up and do 9.
You're a 9.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I wasn't expecting that.
It's just so simple, but so good. And when it hits, it hits.
That's true. So Tabletop Turtle definitely recommends Aeterna. I think it's a great game. I think it plays great at all player counts. There's all mostly just good things to say about it. So if you've never checked it out, do so. That is all for today. Let us know in the comment section whether we're right, whether we're wrong, whether this video was held.
Debate?
Who won the debate? That's right, the monk debates. And yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks
Like,
for
comment,
watching.
subscribe. Goodbye.
See you next one.
Tight.